Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it's with pleasure I rise to take a call in this urgent debate on this bill, which the name of which is beyond me right at the moment, but is basically the government bringing in under urgency. Oh, it's the Budget Measures Financial Support for Newborn Children bill. The government bringing in tax credits for parents and an extension to paid parental leave. And excuse me not being over the title of it when it's just been put on the table a few minutes ago and no real prior warning for this House to be able to debate an issue that is deeply important for this country. When we have 285,000 children living in poverty in this country, we need to be talking about this, and we need to be taking time and considering the best options for getting our children out of poverty. The Green Party believes in good lives and a fair future for every New Zealander. We believe in the vision of every single child in this country thriving, not just surviving, as all too many of them are at the moment, when we put aside those who sadly are still dying of diseases of poverty in this country, to our great collective shame. We know that in this country, with so much wealth around us, we can do better for our children. And this debate is part of the opportunity to consider our options to deliver that wealth. And so I'd like to now address what I think is quite a divided bill, from what I can tell, not having read the detail in the 10 minutes we've had. One bad thing and one good thing. And I'll speak to the bad thing first so that I can end on a positive note. And I do recognise that people I've been following on social media are, they don't want to hear us in the opposition just attacking the government. They do want to recognise what is good in here. And, we're up for that. We will recognise and acknowledge the things we agree with that are good for our children. And we will strongly critique those things that we believe are causing harm or are not up to what our children deserve. And so to that point, I will first address the extension of the parental tax credit. And it is a little bit hard to get our heads around exactly what this is. We've been told that it's an extension to the parental tax credit from $150 a week to $220 a week for those who are entitled. But there has been a tightening up of the eligibility. And that is where my quite deep concern at this stage lies. Because it seems to me that what the government is doing here is actually extending the discrimination that has been right through our courts, that the Child Poverty Action Group has been challenging so strongly through our courts, that applies to the in-works tax credit, that same point of discrimination is possibly being extended into this parental tax credit, so that children from beneficiary families, where the government is saying this is a measure to alleviate poverty, those who are in the most poverty are being excluded from that benefit on the basis that their parents are not in work. And I spoke briefly after we'd heard notice of this with the academic Susan St. John to ask her opinion of whether my reading of this was correct, and she was saying that it's actually a little bit difficult to tell on looking on the website, but it does look as if that is true. And that it does look as if, by the way that the website is reading, that it requires people not to be receiving a benefit and to be meeting hours of work criteria that apply to the in-work tax credit. Now, that is a deep concern for anybody who opposes discrimination, for anybody who... And the members on that side of the House are laughing uproariously at the idea of opposing discrimination, which I really fail to understand what's so funny about the idea of opposing discrimination. I guess their idea is that, people who aren't in work need to be discriminated against so that they'll get into work. I'm not really sure that bears out a fact. And actually, for the Green Party, we believe that parenting is a job worth valuing. and that actually we should be doing everything we can as a country to be supporting our families, those who have two parents and those who are in work, and those who only have one parent who is actively parenting and who may not be in work. That is why there should not be discrimination between those who are in work and not in work, which this does seem to be building in and extending. And I would notice that the court ruling from the Child Poverty Action case, which wasn't successful, but the court established that the grounds for discrimination in the court to consider is when there's a differential treatment or effects of a person's incomparable or analogous circumstances on a prohibited ground of discrimination. Now that is the basis of being in employment. So on the surface of it, it looks as if this provision meets that criteria for consideration by the courts, and if so, whether that differential treatment results in material disadvantage in that context. It looks to me like $70 a week, or more, actually. No, it's probably not that. But there is a significant difference here for those who are not. We are not happy with this as it reads to us at the moment, and we'll be looking at introducing an SOP that I hope we can get support in this House to extend this to those who are out of work as well as those who are in. So the government will be pleased that I'm now moving on to a more positive note to congratulate them for following the lead of the 26 for Babies campaign, for the almost 4,000 New Zealanders who submitted in support of Labour Party Sue Moroney's bill to extend paid parental leave to 26 weeks. I would like to congratulate the members on that committee from the National Party who listened to those submissions and were convinced by them. And I don't see how anyone could have gone through that process and not been convinced. The arguments were deeply compelling that extending paid parental leave facilitates the bonding and attachment between parents and babies. It supports families and ensures stability of incomes. It closes the shortfall between New Zealand's paid parental leave provisions and those in other OECD countries. It improves health outcomes for mothers and babies and children. And it meets the 6 weeks, 26 weeks would have met the World Health Organization's recommendation for exclusive breastfeeding, and allows choice for women. It creates job opportunities, and there are positive implications to this bill in terms of society and our economy and women's workforce participation. How can you not embrace that? So thank you, National Party, for listening to New Zealand. And I would also like to thank the National Party for the extension of the criteria and the accessibility to the bill, because that was my one concern with the private members' bill, and I understand that when you've got a members' bill you have to go for a narrow scope, and that's why it wasn't in there. But that is incredibly important, and the Human Rights Commission were very clear that for them extending paid parental leave to those in casual employment or who were changing jobs was the priority for reducing discrimination. And so it is fantastic to see that, and our children and women all around the country will be thanking you for this significant step on the journey towards the Green Party policy of 13 months, paid parental leave, 13 months. And again, you might laugh, because in the context of your world and the discourse promoted by the National Party, that seems extreme. But in fact, that was the Family Commission's recommendation back in 2007. It is actually only puts it at a midpoint in the comparison to other countries in the world. It's not actually an extreme concept at all, because it benefits our children and benefits our society, and is about recognising that if we start in the early years and provide a really strong foundation to our children and our families, then we're all going to be better off.
Order, order, order. I'm sorry to interrupt the member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it. The unruliness on that side of the House, not understanding the importance of children to our society, and that importance of the first year of life. And that's why the Green Supporting Party are happy to support this bill as a significant step towards our policy of 13 months paid parental leave.
I call Mike Sabin.
Thank you, sir. I just want to commend Jan Logie and the